Welcome back to another edition of Irish Bandit Revolution. I hope everyone is having a great week. I, as always, am your host, the one, the only, the second Irish Bandit. Last week on the show, we talked about my experiences at Saskatoon Expo for the past 3 years. Meeting Robert Englund, talking with William Shatner, meeting James Marster. It's just been a totally great experience from the past 3 years, and I'm hoping that this year will be no different. This week we're going to talk about my expectations. Now, I'm not the kind of person that tries to go into anything with very, very high expectations, because I find that the higher the expectations, the greater the letdown when those expectations aren't met. But when you look at the lineup this year at Saskatoon Expo, it is one of the best lineups I've ever seen. Like, this includes all the past years. Like, yeah, okay, 2014, that was the big one for me. That was Robert Englund. That was Freddy Krueger. I got to meet him, so I was happy about that. But since then, you know, they've had announcements that were like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. I'll get into this a little bit, but when they made their last announcement, I nearly broke down in tears. I'll be honest with you. So let's talk about a few of the guests that they are bringing in this year. Let's start off with their first big announcement, that being Ernie Hudson. So I've been a fan of Ernie Hudson for a long time. I just haven't known it. You gotta remember, when I was very young was the first time that I ever watched Ghostbusters. And watching it back as an adult, I really love the movie more than I did when I was a kid. But you know, at a young age, I couldn't tell you who Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd or Harold Ramis were. I couldn't tell you who Rick Moranis was. I definitely couldn't tell you who Ernie Hudson was. They were just guys on the movie about the ghosts. But it's when you got into the movie The Crow is when I really remember Ernie Hudson. And then watching back Ghostbusters, it was like, oh yeah, Ernie Hudson was in this from The Crow, yeah, okay. So, being a big Ghostbusters fan, a huge fan of The Crow, I'm so looking forward to meeting Ernie Hudson. It'd be like saying, you know, I love the Ghostbusters, I love Ghostbusters 2. I'll be honest with you right now, Ghostbusters 2 is such an underrated movie that I don't know what happened. Everyone just kind of crapped all over it. But, you know, when you look at it, it is pretty much the same movie as Ghostbusters 1. But I don't think that should take away from it. It's a great movie on its own. Not as good as the original, but still, it was a great, fun movie. And then you had The Crow, which was there was such big hype around this after the death of Brandon Lee. And it'd be interesting to hear about how one of my friends, Jason, he was saying, you know, I'd love to ask him how was Brandon Lee, like, when you spent time with him on the set? What was he like? Because he's a big fan of his father, Bruce Lee. I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, too, so. But that would be interesting just to hear the stories from the sets, from Ghostbusters, from The Crow. Talk about his experience on, like, Criminal Minds, when I have a little bit of a theory that the character he played in Criminal Minds is just Officer Albrecht with a new identity. I wonder if anybody's asked him that. And then playing Neptune on Once Upon a Time. That would be interesting to talk about as well, just his experience doing that. Like when I heard, hey, Ernie Hudson's going to be on Once Upon a Time, that's pretty wicked. So it'd be great to talk with him and see what everything was like, especially stories from the set of Ghostbusters. That he probably has some amazing stories about that. And, you know, it's going to be great because the Saskatchewan Ghostbusters are going to be there, so it'll be fun to see them interact with him. It'll also be fun to see Maurice LaMarche interact with them because he played Egon on the real Ghostbusters cartoon. So I'll talk more about him in a little bit. They had another big announcement, and I'm so looking forward to this one because I've been such a fan of his since Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was in the show Sliders with Jerry O'Connell. He played Gimli on Lord of the Rings. And just an overall amazing actor. And I can't wait to meet John Rhys Davies. My dad really loved the show Sliders. It starred Jerry O'Connell and John Rhys Davies as a group of people who just slid around to different dimensions, going to different Earths, and trying to get back home, basically. I almost had the same premise as Quantum Leap, only they weren't traveling different time periods, they were traveling to different Earths. And I really love the Professor character played by John Rhys Davies. So when I heard that he was going to be in The Lord of the Rings, I was like, oh, okay. Wonder what his character will be like. Well, Gimli is probably my favorite character in the Lord of the Rings movies, but not only did you have the Lord of the Rings movies, but before that, he was in Raiders of the Lost Ark with Harrison Ford, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, again with Harrison Ford and with Sean Connery in this one. But he's had so many other film roles and TV credits, it's amazing. He was in Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege tale with Jason Statham. He played a wizard, I think. Not a bad role for him. And he was the voice of Macbeth on one of my favorite animated series, Gargoyles. So it's going to be cool to get to talk to him about that, about what it was like going in the recording booth and portraying such a legendary character in Macbeth. And if I even get him to say, "My name's Macbeth," that would just make me giddy with happiness. So John Rhys Davies, again, very much looking forward to him, and especially talking about what it was like on the set during filming of The Lord of the Rings for as long as they did that, because they did that over a 20-month period, I think it was. Filming 3 movies back to back just has to get grueling, and I'd love to talk to him about that. So John Rhys Davies, it's going to be awesome to get to see him. Someone else that kind of slid under the radar when they were doing all these announcements was the creator of Darkwing Duck, and he executive produced other Disney shows like The Adventures of Gummy Bears, Tailspin, Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers. He just did a lot of great ones. I don't think he did Gargoyles, though. But it's going to be great to meet the creator of Darkwing Duck, Tad Stones. Growing up, I absolutely loved Darkwing Duck. I think it was one of my favorite Disney shows other than Gargoyles, which I talk a lot about. And, there's a reason why I talk a lot about it, but we're talking about Darkwing Duck. So when they made the announcement that Tad Stones was coming to Saskatoon Expo, it was like overshadowed by someone who was on Supernatural. I don't watch Supernatural, so it didn't excite me. But hearing Tad Stones, the creator of Darkwing Duck, was coming, that was like something different. I was like, oh wow, that'd be cool to meet him. He's, he's responsible for Darkwing Duck, one of my favorite shows. So I think it's going to be cool to talk about how he came up with the creation of Darkwing Duck and how it spins off from the DuckTales universe. So, and if we're going to get to see Darkwing Duck in the new reboot for DuckTales, that would be really fun to see, because I know Gizmo Duck is going to be in it. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. So a couple weeks went by and they said we're going to have an announcement on the 22nd of August. So this was in July. So we waited a whole month for this announcement, and they did not disappoint with this one. I was so happy, so excited when they said that Maurice LaMarche and Rob Paulsen were coming to Saskatoon Expo. When I was a kid, there were 7 voice actors who really defined that era for me, from being a kid to being a preteen, let's just say. They were, of course, Rob Paulsen, Maurice LaMarche, Billy West, Peter Cullen, Frank Welker, Lorenzo Music, and Jim Cummings. All these voice actors have basically worked together at some point. You had Maurice LaMarche, Lorenzo Music, and Frank Welker working together on Real Ghostbusters. You had Rob Paulsen and Maurice LaMarche working together on Animaniacs and on Pinky and the Brain. You had Peter Cullen and Frank Welker working together on Scooby-Doo, or I think Peter Cullen was on Scooby-Doo. I know Frank Welker was. I know he was for sure. But they were also worked on Transformers. So you see how those 7 different voiceover artists really define things for me. I've got to meet one of my heroes so far in Billy West. I talked about that last episode. And when I heard that Maurice, the first announcement they made for that day was Maurice LaMarche, and I had a huge smile on my face. I was like, oh, right on, Maurice LaMarche. He was the brain. He was Egon on the Real Ghostbusters. He's Morbo. Morbo on Futurama. He's Kif on Futurama. Like, how cool is that they got him? So I went to retweet this on Twitter. I'm like, okay, I got to retweet this. Then another announcement pop up. And you can't have the brain without Pinky. Rob Paulsen is coming to Saskatoon Expo. Here's a dramatic recreation of my reaction to this. That was my exact reaction to when I saw that Rob Paulsen was coming. I was so excited. Like I said, he was one of the major voices, you know. I was, and still am, a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. And Raphael was always my favorite Ninja Turtle. Has always been, will always be my favorite turtle. And part of that was because of Rob Paulsen. He was also Yakko in Animaniacs, and that was one of the funniest series I've ever seen. Animaniacs was just, oh, fantastic. And he did a lot of other voices, like he did Steelbeak for Darkwing Duck. You know, again, crossover, Jim Cummings and Rob Paulsen. He did the voice of Foulmouth in Tiny Toon Adventures. He was just, that, again, another really funny character. So it is going to be so, oh, I can't wait to meet him. That's going to be like Robert Englund, meeting Robert Englund. Yeah, he's the one I'm there to see. The announcement came late, but he's the one that I want to see. I literally broke down in tears and was shaking for 20 minutes when that announcement was made. I'm not embarrassed to admit it. It's, you know, something I'm so looking forward to that if I don't see anyone else, at least I got to meet him and I got to meet Maurice LaMarche. So, and like I said, if they do a combo photo op with the two of them, I'm definitely getting that. I cannot pass that up. To get my picture taken with both of them would just be phenomenal. So I can't wait for that. Oh yeah, and they also made the announcement that Lou Ferrigno was coming to Saskatoon Expo as well, the Incredible Hulk himself. So that's gonna be interesting to see too. You know, ask him about what it was like. You know, seeing guys like Edward Norton and Eric Bana portray the role of, well, he portrayed the role of the Hulk. You know, it was always Bruce Bixby that was a David Banner. That's a weird story there. On the Incredible Hulk TV series, they called him David Banner because they thought Bruce Banner sounded too homosexual. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I guess, you know, Edward Norton and Eric Bana have just been Bruce Banner. Throw Mark Ruffalo in there too, because he's portraying Banner now. But that would be fun. That'd be interesting to hear him talk about what it's like now seeing the new generation of the Hulk. So yeah, Saskatoon Expo is shaping out to be a fantastic weekend. You're gonna see it all. I'm going to be uploading as soon as I get home from Saskatoon Expo, and it is going to be in HD, so you don't have to worry about, you know, seeing about that much of the screen. You're going to see about that much of it. So, oh wait, you can't see my hand. Haha. But no, I'm going to get into all of that next week when I talk about the season finale. What's going to be happening come season 9 of Irish Bandit Revolution. So, stick around for that. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. Who are you looking forward to seeing at the Saskatoon Expo vlogs? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to share this video anywhere you can. Over my shoulder right here, you can see a link to last week's episode, that being Saskatoon Expo, my experiences over the past few years. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, tap that notification bell. You can be notified whenever I upload anything new. All right. Well, next week is the big season finale of Irish Bandit Revolution. I'm going to be looking at your comments. I'm going to be talking about what has been going on, where I've had to, there came a time where I almost had to stop everything, and now I can redo everything again. So I'm going to talk all about that. Also, next week on Friday, brand new episode of High Five. I'm going to be looking at 5 action movies that you should watch before you die, as part of my series of 5 movies you should watch before you die. All right, well, that wraps up for this week's episode. I hope you guys have a great week. I'm the Bandit. I'm out of here, and I'll see you next week for the season finale. Take care.